We have fun here on the Fake Nerd Podcast. Spoilers for the latest entry in the Halloween franchise, Halloween Kills.
Hey friends, it's going to be a conversation about Halloween Kills, but that means it's also spoilers for Halloween 2018 and Halloween, the 1978 original from John Carpenter. So if you haven't seen any of those things, get out of here.
Who are you watching this third installment? These people, come on, don't do it.
So what do we think about, so full spoilers, you've been warned. What do we think about this one?
Ben, go.
Oh shit. Okay.
It was your favorite movie of 2018.
It was my favorite movie. It's Halloween is still my favorite like air quotes horror movie.
I'm so fascinated by your take. Go ahead.
I have issues with it, but I still had a blast with it. I don't think it's as good as the first one, but this was. I mean, well, I'll get into it more, but I feel like me knowing for a fact that there's a sequel coming kind of hindered it.
I've heard that take before.
I still really enjoy this movie, but I do have some problems with it, especially the ending. I'm really pissed off at the ending. But other than that, it was good. I really had a good time. I still think the first one's better in my opinion, but yeah.
I had a good time. I was enjoying it, and if the ending, I was very dissatisfied with the ending. And if the ending were different, I'd be much more positive on it. But because the ending is the way it is, I think it's good. I had a good time.
Sparks?
I think this is a great Michael Myers movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a great Halloween movie. I feel like it's good. I'm in a very conflicted place because I know, and I've been critical, and I've been thinking about it for days, and I've even glimpsed through most of the movie a second time. Thanks. And I really enjoy the feel of so many things in this movie. And there's a lot of sequences I really love. There's some stuff here that there are things in general that, like, even as I knew I was dissatisfied with when I came out of the movie, I was like, I think I like this more than Halloween 2018.
Oh,
wow. Like, why do I feel that? But that was just
awesome.
the feeling. That was the feeling. And I'm like, but I don't think that's true. I don't think I like the whole movie more. I just think I like things in this movie.
Well, that is the thing of a sequel, where a lot of times it's not better, but it has better sequences.
Yeah. And so I'm still not even at my final answer on some of these things, but I think there's a lot of good stuff here. I definitely don't think it's as garbage as a lot of people feel, especially like Halloween fanatics who are bouncing off of it. And I think bouncing off of it for the wrong reasons. And we'll get into that. But overall, I echo the ending. I think the ending is miserable. But other than that, I thematically, it's a mess. But impact-wise, there's something visceral to it that I really agree with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I largely agree. I liked a lot of the elements in it, which is why I think my final review is I like the parts more than the whole.
Yeah,
I feel that's a big thing with this movie, because there are parts of this movie that are awesome, that are great Michael Myers moments, and I feel I didn't go back and listen to a review from Halloween 2018.
No, you should have stuck with it.
You just say Halloween.
Yeah, from Halloween, were how inventive. I want to say the kills in the first one were very inventive. There were some pretty inventive kills here, albeit silly kills, like when he opens the door and the girl shoots herself in the throat.
That's not silly. That's incredible.
That's genius.
I still liked it. I thought that was a very inventive kill. That was it. Like the thing with Michael Myers is that it is a slasher movie, but it's not like he's constantly, yes, he's stabbing people, but he is stabbing people in a very, I don't want to call it
in a fun way.
I don't want to call it a fun way, but there's a
funny,
word there.
It's funny to me. It's funny to me and Zara as we're watching like Halloween 2018 and this one, where we're just like, it's interesting the people he chooses to pose. He's like has a little arts and crafts moments with his villain
somebody a podcast
people.
listened to described Michael Myers as very theatrical.
Yes.
And I'd be like, yeah, like he likes to have fun with his work, sure.
But yeah, so to kind of finish my initial thoughts, definitely kind of I like the parts more than its whole. Any sequel that you're doing is you're going into lore building. You know, you had your fun in the first film. You didn't really need to do a whole lot of building. Now you got the second one. You got to do some lore building. And I think, all in all, knowing that that Halloween Ends is coming does hurt that.
Yeah. If I did not know Halloween Ends was on the horizon, I feel at the end, because when a part of the movie where you get the townspeople, the survivors of Michael Myers, as now a second time the survivors of Michael Myers surround him, it's like, oh, he dead.
I thought, yeah.
No way in hell he come out of that. And then he comes out of it.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis gives him an evil speech to resurrect him.
Yeah, she does the speech. I'm actually okay with Laurie Strode being in the hospital 90% of the movie. I'm pretty okay with that.
A lot of people reacted really poorly to that.
Right.
And yeah,
I'm okay with it, but at the same time, I'm gonna get my negatives out of the way right now because I want to talk more positive about this movie. The hospital scene where everyone starts chanting "Evil dies tonight." Take a shot every time someone says "Evil dies tonight." You're gonna be drunk.
not even just evil dies tonight.
Dead.
It dies tonight.
Yeah,
Evil dies, or it dies, or he dies tonight.
I hate that. I really think that's. I don't know why I hate it. I just don't like it. It just doesn't feel organic. I mean, getting the townspeople together is like, we're gonna fight this guy because this guy's been haunting our town for this long. I love that.
Yeah.
But the second they start chanting "Evil dies tonight," and it's like, oh, Lord.
See, I don't think the chanting is the problem.
Yeah.
I think the chanting makes sense.
Mob mentality is real.
It's the overuse of that line in too many other places.
Yeah.
Some places it belongs, and some places it doesn't. It is in the movie too much.
And they're trying to tell you a message, but they hit you over the head with. And Thomas, what's his name? Tommy looks directly at the camera and says, "What if we're the monsters?" He looks directly at the camera and he says it to the audience, and I'm like, that's a joke. But it's so direct in your face, and I'm like, there's no subtlety with what you're trying to do here. Like,
it doesn't have any good, like, even as it's trying to say something about these things, and this is from their mouths. Like Jamie Lee Curtis and David Gordon Green have likened this to wanting to express things about Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement, and they've wanted to inject that into this film, and I'm like, that didn't work.
It didn't.
No. Your concept wasn't executed correctly.
Yeah.
No. And I agree. I think because we got to do this in pieces. Like, I want to tackle the hospital, specifically the other patient. I think that's a big common issue.
Can I bounce off of what Ryan said about Tommy saying, looking right at the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Because you mentioned that Sparks, you mentioned that they don't really execute that kind of message. Well, the issue for me became that we're trying to inject this social commentary, and then Tommy's like, maybe we're the monsters, but it doesn't matter because they're just gonna go kill Michael Myers anyway. Like, they don't have any kind of come to God moment with that message. There's no reason for that message to be in the movie because you're not doing anything with it.
Right.
They're not conflicted. Yeah.
There's nothing that changes them about it. And like, there is an idea that I think is good in the sense of Michael Myers is fear.
He inspires
and he
fear.
makes fear and makes us worse because of it. And I'll go even a step further of like how muddled it is because Tommy says at the very beginning, in a very confusing closure to his speech at the bar, that the boogeyman is coming. He's coming for all of us. He's coming for you, and it might not be tonight. It might not be the next night, but we'll never give in to fear because we can rise above that. And I'm like, that's cool, but like, that's not who Tommy is for the rest of the movie.
He immediately counters
that doesn't gel.
Yeah.
And it's like all this like neat lines when you isolate them, but they don't work together.
Yeah.
I do think that there is a good core concept of that, again, like that concept that Michael Myers is fear.
Yeah.
And I think they just needed to cling to that rather than trying to dabble at all with people when they become mobs or monsters. Because I'm like, the issue with that is that Michael Myers is a monster.
Yeah.
And if he's a monster,
they try to personalize him.
The only way that this works is if they actually killed him in the end.
Yeah.
That's the only way this works. Because otherwise the people are monsters thing. And honest to God, he killed so many people in so many brutal ways in this movie. I don't even think that still works. Because like you had someone who was an unstoppable force. This is not the Michael Myers of even the second one who murders a decent chunk of people. This is Michael Myers like almost killing a quarter of the town.
Yeah, he kills
like
so many.
He kills like 10 firemen at the beginning, and then he kills like 10 people.
I don't know if they have firemen anymore in Haddonfield. Like that.
So many people die in this movie. There are so many bodies.
Oh yeah.
Just the body count is just astronomically high in this movie,
which is awesome. I will say, like, I think that's awesome. Like, it makes Michael scary. but the problem is that, like, again, if you're trying to bring in that message of like what does he make us, what do we become, it went in the wrong direction with it, and then it didn't commit.
100%.
And so that's the whole issue with that. So I want to bring that all back into focus and talk specifically about this, because I do think it's one of the most controversial parts of the film, the other patient story. Because I think that is the thing that is trying to drive home that story. I don't think it inherently was a bad idea. I just think it was so sloppy in how it was included. You've got things like the elements of Tommy, even like, I get when the patients like they give into like people saying it's Michael and they just take it as hearsay and they all just start charging. But when Tommy lays eyes on him in the doors,
he should know.
And the worst part is when he's gone off the building, Tommy sees him on the ground, and Karen's like, that wasn't Michael. And he's like, we don't know. We haven't seen him with him. And I'm like, Tommy, you know that's not Michael.
You're better
than
than that.
He's super freaking tall.
Here's the worst reason about that. It's because Tommy is literally in the earlier part of the film looking at the news thing, talking about this patient being one of the escaped ones. And then they cut from that patient to Michael, who you can't see because they don't want you to see his face, but it is Michael. So you know he saw Michael's face.
Zara and I pointed that, we're talking about that on the drive home. Tommy mistaking someone for Michael, anyone mistaking anyone, this other guy for Michael, doesn't make any sense, because there are pictures of Michael Myers. He was just sitting in a psychiatric hospital for 60 years. Someone took his picture.
Right. It doesn't work, and it doesn't work for Tommy, and I think it did work up until the point where Tommy got to it. And that whole thing gets so muddled. And like, unfortunately, I don't think it does anything for Karen. And Karen's thrust into that story.
She's wasted in this movie.
I don't think it benefits her character at all to do that. And that's a bummer. Because I don't think the connective tissue exists between that and Karen seeing the image of young Michael at the end of the film. I wish that bridge existed. It doesn't.
You brought up Karen. Massive downgrade. In the first movie, she's the gotcha moment.
So I want to, and I thought about this a lot, and this is the thing, like, I want to recontextualize this other patient scene, because I think I saw the problem, and like the big problem. Karen shouldn't have been at the hospital anymore. She should have gone with her daughter, because we needed that connection, that relationship to matter more, because Karen already didn't have enough time with her in the first film. We needed more of that here, especially for what they were going to do in the ending. So I'm bitter that didn't get to happen, that Judy Greer didn't get to flesh that out. The other reason that should have happened, Laurie should have been in the Karen role with the other patient. Because Laurie has that observation. Laurie making that speech at the end makes 10 times more sense. Because Laurie has now seen, without knowing what Michael's doing, without knowing what Michael's done, Laurie has a concept that she has to grapple with of, what have I become because of Michael, that is carrying over her trauma from the first film, and looking at what has happened to this patient. And at least, even if it doesn't work for the whole town's story, it does make sense for Laurie's, if that's the case. Laurie should have been the person weighing the consciousness of, this is because of the fear I brought to the town. I brought this by what I kept alive for 40 years. And that should have been the core theme of what was going on with that idea.
But you can't give her more stuff, because you have to give it to the other new character.
To the daughter.
But that's you could have had all that.
No,
like,
I know,
it's just taking Karen and putting her with her daughter and letting Laurie be the person who did that. And I think that would have made the whole thing gel so much better. Because it would have put that focus on like Laurie's thematic arc. And again, like, it's so important to know that Laurie doesn't know how bad it is yet. And so Laurie can kind of trick herself in like, did I make this worse? And is my trauma the problem?
And again,
she has a moment.
She can be wrong.
She has a moment where she sees it with Karen, where they kind of like, it's not him. It's not Michael. And she tries to stop people too, but then she's taken out of commission. You take Karen out of commission instead. You make a far more impactful story moment.
Right. You put Karen with her daughter. I think that needed to happen. I think Karen needed to be, once she knew her daughter was going to go, she should have gone too.
It feels like
I don't like the way that relationship was rubbed up against, considering where it's going to end. Karen should have been out there with her.
It feels like they wrote the end first. They're like, we know how we want the movie to end. How do we get there? Because like, you have to have characters be in certain situations to get to the bad ending. Because otherwise, like, you'd have to change so much so that all that stuff doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like,
But you can still have Karen there,
Yeah.
because that does get her there, and like it's worse in some ways knowing Halloween Ends is there, because
Yes.
I'm like, this is the end of that relationship. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
There was room in another film to have explored this thing, and we're leaving it dead on the floor.
Yeah.
Literally. That's a bummer, and I think that would have solved two birds with one stone. I would have felt better about the ending to some extent, and I would have felt better about the thematic story of, at least in the perspective of what we're going with Laurie. Laurie is allowed to feel at that point like maybe people have been driven too far. Maybe fear is the real
Mind killer?
monster and all that kind of stuff. And Michael be something worse than that, and Laurie be wrong in her observation because she's faking herself out about it.
Yeah. I want to flip flop off a negative to a positive, then we can get back to a negative.
Absolutely.
Remember how we talked about how Daniel Craig, his best performance wasn't in the best Bond movie?
Yeah.
This is my favorite Michael Myers.
Yes.
His burnt face.
That's why I say it's a great Michael Myers.
Yeah, his burnt face is so scary. His kills are so scary. Like him just doing his thing this whole movie, fighting a bunch of firemen, being maskless for like 20 minutes, like, and like never seeing his face.
And feeling tense.
I love that.
Really, like I was definitely tense in this movie. And like it's something like, you know, the mob stuff takes you out of it, but like when Michael's doing his thing, like I'm feeling it. This is a great Michael Myers.
And it's not just having great kills. Real quick, Ben. It's not just having great kills. It's the tension around and the energy of Michael throughout this movie. Feels like a force that, I'm saying as a person who's seen all the Halloween films, it never quite has reached this kind of level.
Yeah.
He feels pervasive and unstoppable in a way that like doesn't usually happen, and it's all the more impressive that he feels that way even without getting up to the point where people are literally like throwing everything they got at him and he's stopping.
Yeah.
It's you just feel like he's unstoppable because of the energy of the scene around him.
Yeah.
Rather than like them having to physically like tell you with the action he's unstoppable.
I was really enjoying like the finale with him getting up and then just like revenge murdering everyone, and him and Tommy. And I kind of just wish it would end ended there.
I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I really did too.
I was hoping, but anyways, I want to talk about one of my favorite parts of the movie is the fact that we still don't see the actor playing Michael Myers. Just like the first one, you don't see his face. You see bits of his head. You don't see his face.
You do get a clear look at his face in the first film, the original film. You do. It's for a couple seconds, but you see his face.
Yeah, I'm talking about the 2018 one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
you say original, and my brain goes somewhere else.
My bad. I meant 2018. So like the 2018 one, you don't get a clear shot of his face.
No.
And I love that.
Just some 60-year-old man.
Because Michael Myers is the mask. He is, like, when you say Michael Myers, you think of the knife and the mask. That's the thing you think about when you say that name.
Think of William Shatner.
And
Damn it, beat me by that much.
that Kirk mask. But just, and also I actually agree. This is a great Michael Myers movie because his mask is burnt. The damage is there from the 2018 movie. He's ready to keep going out and just being
kind of
force.
I talked about it with like lore building. What it kind of does is move Michael Myers away from the They moved Michael Myers away from the supernatural element of him by erasing the other movies, and you kind of move Michael almost into that, but in a believable. In the first film, it's a 60-year-old man killing a bunch of people. In this one, he becomes an unstoppable kind of.
He gets shot a dozen. He gets shot a dozen times.
Oh, that dude should be dead.
This is definitely something else going on.
That dude got shot.
Yeah.
5 times.
So they move him. So they move him kind of back into that position of being the unstoppable Terminator that we've come to know him as, and I think it's in a really effective way.
Yeah, very, very much so. Also, no one in Haddonfield can shoot for shit.
No
one's been to the range at all.
Only Laurie.
I will say that works to the film's detriment that like they didn't want to hit too hard on like him getting through bullets. Like they wanted to be there but not be like overbearing. And it's a problem that like so many members of the town feel like they can go at him after everything he's done with blunt weapons.
Yeah,
just the bat. Yeah,
it's like I have a baseball bat. It's like, nah, dude, you need a shotgun.
Tommy needs to be coming in there with an axe.
Yeah,
he had time. He had time to go get an axe.
I mean, okay, I do like how at the beginning when the firefighters see Michael Myers, because I was watching the movie with Fanny, and there's a lot of people were talking about this, or they were like the quiet murmurs of my movie experience, where people were like, "Oh, they got axes. He's rude," and then of course he just murders all the firemen because you see the firemen, you see them, and they just grip their axe because they know they're in for a fight. And Michael Myers still just plows through them. And I do like how we don't see I mean, I haven't seen the other. I've only seen the original and the original second one. I haven't seen anything past that in the original Halloween films. So I like how it's alluded in these films that there is a supernatural element, because this is a man, a true form of evil, who bleeds and gets shot and just keeps getting up. He is that final boss in a game that you're just like sitting there. It's like, why won't you die?
So the whole thing is like, once you hit Halloween 2, the original, the concept of Michael Myers never really, even if they explore the origin more, it never really changes from the fact that Michael Myers is just meant to be evil incarnate.
Mm-hmm.
He is just meant to be that.
Yeah.
That is all that is supposed to be him, and that's why it's not supposed to be anything like more than that. They do explain like more at a certain point in 6.
People
but like,
build like
you don't
around him.
you don't need to like grab more onto it other than to say like he's just evil.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the concept. Now,
Or what if he was a 6-year-old boy?
so this is another one of my problems with this film, is that they start to like dabble into exploring a deeper concept, which I'm actually on board with for the idea of it, because this is something I told Ryan, Megan, and I when we watched the original film a few months ago. I watched it trying to put it into the context of the only sequel to this is the Hollow Green and this one.
Mhm.
And if I look at it in that context, I'm like, why does Michael pursue Laurie so specifically?
Yeah.
If she's not his sister, what is the reason? And I saw in the original film where this wasn't the intention of John Carpenter, but like if you are trying to put it through that lens, what you can see is there is an opportunity for it to be this. There is something so special about the opening of Halloween that the second film and none of the sequels really have a good answer for, and this could. Even now it still could, but and it's the shot when Michael comes out of the house after killing his sister at the beginning, and his parents take the mask off him and he's just standing there without the mask on, stunned. Carpenter's thought of something is behind that moment, but none of the movies after really run with what is the intention of that. If you isolate the original to this continuity, then in the original, Michael goes back to Myers' house. That's where he goes directly. He gets there first. And he stands in the same window where he killed his sister, and he looks out that window, and the first person he sees is Laurie. And you could make an argument that Michael is trying to analyze that traumatic moment of his life where he did this, and why did he do this? What was this horrible mistake? Because there is a reasonable path of like, did Michael do a bad thing? Yes, but was Michael necessarily evil incarnate, or was being locked away immediately after he did it and being told by Dr. Loomis, you are evil incarnate, the thing that made him that?
Yeah.
And that's something that could be explored here, but like the film has such a muddled script about how they want to tackle that, because you have Officer Hawkins saying both he is evil completely,
but
and
also
he's a 6-year-old boy wanting to look at his own reflection and trying to see something in himself. And
what
I'm
is
like,
it?
he can't be both from the perspective of one character. He can be both from the perspective of multiple
Different
characters talking about him in the film,
Yeah.
but he can't be both from the perspective of one person.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really weird. Like they're clearly trying to allude to something with the window moment.
Yeah.
But I don't think they know what.
They're saving it for the next movie.
And I don't think it's executed well, because I don't think they know what. And it doesn't feel like it in the script.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I forgot. Sorry.
I agree. I'm cool with the idea of exploring the origin of Michael, or like, is it supernatural? Is he just like, he's just really tough and evil? Like that, I'm cool with that. But like, again, they're picking one side, but then immediately
himself haunted by trauma?
Yeah. They're like, oh, he's a child, but also he's pure evil. Like you can't be both. You got to pick one.
Yeah.
Like
I remember what I was going to say. In the movie, what I did appreciate is kind of the different stories about Michael's quote unquote obsession with Laurie. Judy Greer believes that Michael came searching for her,
Yes.
hunting her, but her daughter was like, no, it was the doctor who put him on Laurie's path. Like it was the only reason why they came together.
he is a force that gets put in a direction.
Yeah, I like the idea that he doesn't give a shit who Laurie is. I still hold that he does kind of recognize her, but I don't think he cares.
I think for Michael Myers, like when you were saying about what, like Laurie was the first one he saw, so he's just like, kill. Like he kills indiscriminately. He sees people, he's like, time to die.
My whole thing was like, it's like she survived and he doesn't like that.
Yeah,
because
he picked up something about Laurie, because he did everything on a path towards her.
Yeah.
So in the original.
Yeah.
but I agree with what Brandon's saying. Like, I do like the idea that there is this idea of the dual narratives, and I like the idea that where Michael's actually going is the house.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it got interrupted.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's clean in this movie.
Back to a positive. I love all the 1978 footage.
100% agree.
It almost looks like it could have been actually shot at that time. It looks so good.
Saying as having watched it on my TV here, it looks exactly the equal level of watching the original
Of like that
4K
film grain
here.
Yeah.
They look the same.
Very
legitimately, until I saw the actor, I was like, this is a scene from the 78 film.
Yeah.
And then I saw who they cast as a young Hawkins. I was like, oh my god, this looks incredible.
And then you got a Loomis. I'm guessing
The way that the how did they do the Loomis?
So Loomis is, I
prosthetics.
looked into it. Loomis is their art director for the film. He happened to bear a similar resemblance, just a little, to Donald Pleasance.
Nice.
So they did some prosthetic work to make him look more like him. And then there's someone imitating Loomis's voice who imitated Loomis's voice for the previous film.
Okay.
That's so good.
Yes.
I mean,
but it's all prosthetic work on top of a person who already looked kind of similar.
I'm not gonna lie. When Loomis shows up on screen, I was like, this is like the best CG deepfake I've ever seen.
I thought it's CG.
Since we're bringing up the 1978 footage, I want to bring up an argument that I think is
oh my god, he does look like him.
Oh damn.
Yeah, the art director.
He really does look like Loomis.
Yeah, so they just did an amount of prosthetic work to make him look a little more like him, and I think that's incredible.
That
it looks great.
It does.
They didn't do a lot. It's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Talking about the 1978 footage, this is an argument against the film that I've seen out there that I think is absolutely just moronic and stupid, and I've seen it coming from like Halloween purists and fanatics who are just really upset, and they hate that this movie like does a lot of things that the original sequel does. They're like, this moment's like Halloween 2 and it's doing this thing like Halloween 2, and I'm like, I get that, the heck out of here. It's plenty different enough, like Jesus.
Yeah.
But this one in particular, like, really pissed me off, where they are mad that they show flashback footage for the sheriff to him seeing Annie's body, because that footage comes from Halloween 2, a film that doesn't exist in this canon. And I'm like,
it's the same night.
It doesn't have to exist in this canon, but it still can be the moment that he saw his daughter. That doesn't freaking change. Like, just because that movie doesn't exist in the canon,
it happened.
That's a stupid thing to get upset about.
If they're Halloween purists, they would know that it takes place in the same night. So it'd be in the
they
first
do
movie
know. They
still.
just are mad because it's
That's
like
so dumb.
Because that movie was wiped from continuity, and like ultimately it's a thing that they don't like, that 2018 decided to wipe Halloween 2.
I get it.
They wish that it was a follow-up to that one, and I'm like, fine. It is stupid to just be like, well, that's footage from a movie that doesn't exist this timeline. I'm like, cool. Like, I mean, it's still
that character died.
It's still that actor. They have the footage of that young actor seeing his character's daughter. Like, why wouldn't you use it? That's just dumb.
Yeah,
that is so dumb.
I will
the dumb things that people choose to get upset about with this movie.
I will piggyback my positive with one of my negatives, and I don't think you guys will agree strongly, but I liked Hawkins in the first movie. I feel like Hawkins is a distraction from Laurie and Judy Greer and all that stuff. And like I liked all the 78 stuff, but his like, so I am so now part of this story. I am the reason Michael Myers is this way. Like, for me, it took away from the original cast in a way where if the stuff was better, I'd like it. But because where this movie is and where the next movie's going, I'm like, I wish it would have focused more on the family stuff personally.
I will present a counter in the sense of, I think Hawkins his backstory is a good inclusion. Mm-hmm. I think that, again, just like other things in the script, Hawkins' whole thing gets kind of muddied and messy, and I don't think it's clean. And I don't think that it's saying the things about the character it should necessarily in the world the way I want it to. However, I will push back on, I think it's actually great that we see that he's the reason Michael isn't dead, that he stops Loomis from shooting him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Or at least, like, whether or not that would kill him, who knows. But, like, the fact that he's the person who stops Loomis, because Loomis was adamant Michael Myers needed to be killed that night. And the only reason in old continuity of Halloween that Michael Myers isn't killed that night is because they're pretty sure they killed him in the hospital in the sequel. That's the only reason that Loomis lets up, is because he's pretty sure Michael is dead. So Loomis was so adamant in the original that Michael Myers needed to be killed, not captured. So to have this continuity where he's been in prison for all this time, you would have to address on some point why Dr. Loomis allowed that to happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I do like that they provide a nice, clean window into not just we're showing you, here's the reason, but also made it a character beat.
Okay.
I think that is good. how it's interwoven into his involvement and his guilt about the story and what that means to Laurie, not as good.
I think that's what I'm rubbing up against.
That's what I rub it up against too. The actual flashback,
the actual
footage,
event I like.
I think is great.
Yeah. Again, like, I would watch a whole 1978 movie.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's so silly. I could just watch effing Halloween, right?
There's a scene in the trailer where we see the boy who falls over. Lonnie. We see him in the trailer, and I just thought that was footage from the 78 film. That's how good that looked.
They do a great job. Like the kids from the 78 film feel like they have the dialogue and the cadence of like the bullying that was in those movies. Like it really does feel like footage from that night.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out, while we're still on the 78 stuff, one of my favorite shots in this whole movie, and it's cheap, it's easy, but it's great, is the mirroring of Michael with all the cops in front of the house when they capture him, because it's the exact same shot when the mask is taken off of him. No, when the mask is taken off of him as a little boy.
Oh,
it's the same shot in front of the house. They pull out the same way. It's the exact same shot. I think that's beautiful. I think that's really cool.
I love it. Yeah.
We were talking about Hawkins when he awoke from his death. I was really excited because I was always sad that character died in the first film, the last film. So I was like, yeah, all right, he made it. And then
I didn't rewatch it, so I forgot. Like, oh right,
yeah, because I remember the friend died in a very brutal way, but I forgot the boyfriend didn't die, and then
that too.
Yeah, and then he
made it to the sequel. But to talk about Hawkins, like I really liked him coming back to life, and I was super into that. And then they just don't really do a lot with him after that to kind of make that work. And I hope that the next one, because he is still on the board, I hope that the next one really gives him more.
So I feel like this is both like a detriment to the film, but also I think one of the best choices it makes. Laurie and Frank Hawkins can only do so much because they were so severely injured in the previous movie, which, to the movie's credit, I'm really grateful for, because slasher movies don't do this a lot. Almost never. Usually, like, I need to heal from that stab wound is like, good, here we go, I gotta fight the killer again. Like Laurie could easily do it. The fact that they hold on like a surgery moment for Laurie and its consequences, like this feels, it makes it feel more visceral. It makes Michael feel more powerful against them, because it's not something they can just bounce back from. They don't have that ability. And Hawkins was really badly injured in that 2018 film, so the fact that he has to be out of commission on the bed, I'm ultimately grateful for, because it adds to the realism of it. I still just think his dialogue bits with Laurie and how he's pushing he feels like he's supposed to be the mouthpiece, especially because we open the film with him.
He's like the lore piece
of the analysis of Michael, and it's through him that it feels too muddy. And that's the problem. But I ultimately am grateful for like what role they're doing, in the sense of like, they make Michael feel truly daunting. Because the heroes can't just bounce back.
The continuity between both films really impresses me. They line up so perfectly, having not been shot back to back. When we see Hawkins in that way, the fact that the boyfriend is in a dress the entire movie, they never kind of give him a moment to change, because he ended that movie in a dress. So he's going to be in the whole movie with an address. I like the commitment to that kind of. We're keeping it. If you watch them back to back, it would be seamless.
Yes. I agree. I think the continuity is really strong. Some of the positives I definitely want to lay out. I love the return of some of our favorite.
Oh my God, what's the kid's name? Julius? What's his name?
Julian on the news. Go Julian.
My number one babysitter died.
My number one babysitter was killed. You go up there, Dave, you're gonna die. So happy to see Julian. It's a little moment, but it's
I think the comedy in this movie for me really does work.
I think it's great. I think when it hits really well. I think there's a lot of good uncomfortable comedy and good comedy. The use of Lindsay is great. I'm glad she isn't killed in this movie. I'm glad she's still out there. Her moment hiding from Michael by the water.
Scary.
So tense. So good. I've seen people liken it to the hobbits hiding under the.
Oh, that's what I 100%.
Yeah, everyone's
the second she got under that. I was like, that was cool.
It's great. It's got that energy. It feels really uncomfortable.
Love, and it's controversial on the internet. I found out I love Big John and Little John.
I love Big John and Little
I
John too.
was
Me too.
shocked to find people
How
find
is
that
Big
offensive
John-
and gross.
How
And
are
I'm like,
Big John, Little John?
I
I
don't-
love those guys.
I-
I feel bad for them.
they were just people having fun, smoking weed on Halloween. I don't know what's gross or offensive about that
I
at all.
love
I
how
don't
they
get it.
how they have like this thing as like Big John
And Big
Little
John's small. That's the joke.
I think,
Yeah,
I think
that is a joke. But also, you like when they're talking, like when they're in the house and there's like someone's in the house and like they know the house they live in, like they know who lives there.
They have
or
such good
used to live
chemistry.
there.
Yeah.
they're great.
Like
Yeah.
when they get the kids and the kids like do that prank to steal the rest of their candy and it's like Michael Myers and they're trying to scare them.
I love Big John and Little John. I love that Michael Myers has now been confirmed to be a pro-queer relationships because he sets them up in their romantic post from their photos.
He
And
does!
he's like, hey, you know, I respect it.
Dude.
I killed you, but I respect it.
I stabbed you. I stabbed the shit out of you.
Uh, The second that I saw Michael McDonald, who was on Mad TV and like the Austin Powers movie, he's like a big comedian from the 90s. And I'm like, David Gordon Green just called one of his friends, like, do you want to be in my Halloween movie? And I'm like, hell yeah. They're so good. They're
They
so
have
fun.
a great scene. I think the kids are great too. The kids feel like very modern, true to life kids. It doesn't feel hammed up.
Oh,
nor
the
does it
season of the
feel-
Witch Kids?
Nor does it feel pulled back. The season of the Witch Kids.
Yeah, I
to pull
love
a prank
'em.
on them. The scene where they are scaring them is very good by telling them the story about Michael Myers that they don't know, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I love Big John and Little John. I thought they were very effective. I have to imagine that part of it is just being upset that we introduce queer characters
And they
we
die.
kill them.
I
And
guess.
I'm like,
yeah.
most people die in these movies. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
that's-
cool that
you
they're here.
introduce people. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little shocked when they introduced the doctor and the nurse
Mhm.
in the beginning of the movie, and I'm thinking I'm kind of hoping these guys live, and then they're dead 20
This
minutes
is
in.
this is the 12th Halloween movie with Michael Myers in it. The fact that this is the first time we've really gotten a queer relationship featured. I like the fact that they get murdered. I don't think is an issue.
Not at all.
It's
yeah.
just good that they were.
It's
They're
in
in
a
the movie a lot.
It's
Yeah.
in a Michael. You're in a slasher movie. I'm pretty at this point in time. If you're in a slasher movie, you're fair game.
Yeah, man.
It's,
Doesn't matter.
It's hard not being with you guys. You guys got the chemistry. You just won't stop. There are 2 points that you kind of pass through that I want to touch on, if you don't mind. The house. I really appreciate differentiating it from the rest of the Halloween franchise. Having the house be occupied and lived in. All of Halloween is the house is decrepit and torn down and like. And I like that the idea that someone did move in, someone who knew and didn't care, they did move in and kind of made it a home. That was a nice touch.
Well, yeah, murder houses are actually really cheap.
Yeah,
You buy a house where someone was murdered in it. Those are actually the cheaper houses
I
because
would-
they're harder to sell.
I'd buy it.
and then the other one is the doctors. When they showed up, I was really happy that I watched Halloween 2018 because I was like, oh, they're the two who narrowly missed Michael Myers.
Yes, I saw that in the 2018 one too. I thought that was really cheeky, nice follow up.
I should
Yeah,
have
there's-
watched.
There is a
2018
couple. There is a couple like very quick 2018 references. Like there's one of the kids who died, and his mom is like trying to find him.
Oh
And you
yeah,
see his
yes,
body
Oscar,
for half a
yeah,
second.
yeah.
And it's like if you didn't rewatch that movie, you'd forget who this guy is.
You
No,
see his
you see his body at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
when
Okay.
when
He's-
Cameron's calling him.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
that's right,
he's on the fence, and
That's
then
right, that's
you see
right.
because when his mom shows up and she sees him in the corners.
But it's
in
easy
the
to
auditorium.
forget when she's looking for him and saying Oscar that's him.
Yeah.
Because like you hear his name once in this movie before that moment, and then and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
For Ben, the sequence where they're introducing Halloween 2018 is the beginning of the one take where Michael kills a bunch of people in the different houses. They get into their car going to a karaoke night. And then Michael watches them leave and then goes to kill their next
Which
one.
is the night, which is where they're
He
going.
does say that that's our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because the
Yes.
doctor says this is, or the guy playing the doctor who's really a nurse.
Yes.
And I just like how the wife is the nurse and she's really the doctor.
That was really good.
That was a good joke. Because he's like, yo, that's that kid from across the street. Yo, this is
But-
our oh shit.
I like those two characters until for some reason the wife just disappears for 10 minutes while her husband is killed.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
that was
we
really
were-
strange. She gets out of the car and like he yells shoot him, but she's gone. And then she's walking back to the car to shoot him before she's in a brilliant kill, shot in the face. But I just thought that was really interesting that she's just like gone.
I appreciate the note that Lindsay, again, great. Annie, is Annie, right? The nurse from the original at the beginning. And Lonnie does live there, but Annie and Lindsay come from out of town. They didn't stay in Haddonfield.
They should have.
This is a reunion, 40-year reunion moment for them.
Yeah.
Is a part of the dialogue that they're coming back together as survivors.
Just-
and that's why Tommy's moment feels more appropriate rather than out of the weird blue.
Yeah.
It's them kind of attributing to that.
Yeah, like seeing the footage of them as kids and then their interaction with Michael Myers in the original
I would not be
movies.
surprised if they invited Laurie
Yeah.
earlier on, but like things had happened. Like
Yeah.
Laurie might have even shown up.
Yeah.
It sounds like
seeing-
it sounds like they're in touch.
Yes.
Yeah, because so seeing that part, at first I'm like, this is a weird story of like the boogeyman, and then when we see them as kids, it's like, oh, I get it.
I
So-
still think of that like I think the movie worked overall, but I still remember that the second trailer that we saw where it's like the survivors of Michael and just boom, boom, boom. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh yeah,
I
I think we
think
remember that.
For the most part, it capitalized on that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame that the nurse got killed in such a similar situation to the situation she was attacked in before. But ultimately, I'm just glad to have her. I thought that was really great.
This is for
I love that Michael killed the skeleton kid, straight up
Yeah.
murdered him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the kids realize like, is that Adrian's mask?
Oh my
I
God,
love
like,
those
that's-
kids.
That's the energy. Like that is exactly modern kid energy when it's like, oh, there he is. Oh, hello, mister. Like, I'm like, that is exactly how kids their age talk today.
And then
perfect.
and then the horrible realization that that's their friend's mask.
Yeah.
Bleeding. He did.
Yeah.
He did.
I hate the ending, guys.
Yeah, so do I.
It really, really bums me out. And I think
I'm really glad. Oh, can I just say I'm really
Yeah.
glad we're in agreement on that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I came out of that being like, oh man.
yeah, and that's really what like it's what soured me most on the movie is the ending. Because like there's some stuff in the middle, but like it wasn't that bad for me.
So, do you want to say more first? Or...
Yeah, just real quick. I would be fine with the choice they made if this were made at the beginning of the next movie, because then the stakes are set. It's not a cliffhanger. I just and like the context between the characters isn't even there. So like what feels like a cool moment is only cool for one of the characters.
I'll say exactly what I said to Ryan when we came out of it, which is that my problem with it is that Halloween films tend to end on an emotional downbeat. So even if it's like something shocking has happened, it's the emotion of the reaction that we end on. Like the perfect example of this, it cannot get better, is Halloween 4 when Loomis sees that Laurie's daughter has stabbed somebody, and he sees that, and he's looking up the stairs and he's shouting, "No,
Michael!
no!
Michael! No!"
And that's it cuts on that emotional like beat of Loomis seeing that. That is usually generally even like the worst Halloween films end on that kind of an emotional reaction to something.
Yeah.
And this one is framed like, get hyped, Godzilla's gonna fight Kong in the next one.
Yeah.
Oh boy, is he? And I'm like, wow, we're really just devoid of that. And the solution to me is just the ending should have been Laurie finding out Karen was killed through a phone call, whatever. And those two moments didn't need to be like happening at the same time. You could think that when Laurie's
She could
giving
even
the
be on the
speech-
phone.
You could think that when Laurie's giving the speech. So we'll talk about that. But you could think that while Laurie's giving the speech and we're seeing Michael kill her is happening at the same time. And then you find out at the end that Laurie is finding out that happened already in the night. And she's reacting to it. And it's her despair that we end
her
on.
breakdown.
And that is the way that the movie should. And honestly, if you had that little change, it would fix it for me because I need that emotional reaction now.
Yes.
That's what I need to punch me and hold me over.
Because
instead of this, like, get pumped next time it's personal.
Because at the end of it, you have Michael Myers staring out a window and you have Laurie staring out a window. They're not thinking about the same things.
No.
This isn't episode 3, Anakin and Padme thinking about each other across space. They are having different conversations right now, but we're supposed to feel the impact.
When it happened, I thought it was a dream. Like, I thought she was hallucinating Michael there. Yeah. Because the way it's like, the way the music kind of frames it, the way the sound effects are going, like, I thought it was like, you know, she's so engrossed in seeing whatever he is meant to be seeing through this window that she imagines him coming up from behind her, and like it would cut with like not him there.
The other one that we said was this is leaning more towards Ryan, that she would be there, she'd be at the window, she'd be like taking in the moment. So that's something that about the little boy standing there because she sees him and imagines him. For
why
some reason,
though?
Like that isn't clear because again, the whole messaging of that point in this film is messy. If she did that and she took that moment, she breathed in, she saw her own reflection, then it looks past her reflection and Michael's down on the street staring up at her because she thinks he's been killed.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone, if you end on that beat and she goes, and then it cuts, like that also would have worked.
Absolutely.
Again, it's an emotional reaction downbeat that
Yeah.
we need, but we're not given that. We're given this like pumped up, like, oh, they gonna fight. Like, I don't give a shit.
And it sucks too because it's an immediate death of like one of your main characters. Then it's immediate Kong versus Godzilla. There's no time to experience the death that just happened.
No, it's so, it feels rushed.
I feel bad for that character.
I do too.
Like
I feel bad for Judy Greer because that character, that it's also a bummer that they killed her because she's not utilized well in this film. Yeah. That's also a note about it, but that wouldn't be anywhere near as problematic if the emotional reaction to her death was in the movie, was in the text of it, happened on screen. I told Ryan in the original script notes, apparently what originally was going to happen is that Laurie was going to be on the phone with Karen when she was murdered, and she was going to hear it happen, and then she was going to hear Michael pick up the phone and breathe into it. But they decided not to do that because it was too similar to the original, which is where Linda gets murdered while she has the phone around her neck, and Laurie thinks that she's having sex when she called her, and then Linda dies, and then Michael breathes into the phone and hangs out.
It's crazy that they're scared to make homages in a movie that does a bunch of homages to other movies. That's silly to me.
It's just, I think this is the best character that Judy Greer has played in many years. She often gets just to be the mom role in many movies, and to give her that starring role, I think honestly it's a disservice to her how good she was in that last film. And she's still good in this movie. She's just underutilized. And again, like, it's just a disservice to lose that character.
She is like such like a hard ass in that first movie, and she's like that final confrontation is like awesome. It is so cool.
Like when she says "gotcha" and pulls the trigger, I'm like,
I didn't feel that character in this movie at all.
Not even close.
Right.
I was hoping.
And again, I think this was a problem of not having her like throw out your original plan. Like, you got to get on this and live in the moment that's happening.
Yeah.
That she didn't go be with her daughter. That wasn't a plot of the movie. Once she realized that she left, why she didn't go out there and be with her, like that's where we needed the Karen development. We needed her to be doing that.
Yeah,
she ended up being the character that we all thought she was in 2018. Like, you know, the character that she kind of puts on for her family life that she sheds when she's fighting Michael. She just becomes just that initial character. And that's such a shame,
because I freak out mom.
But you want more from, you got that moment where she sheds that character. You want more from that.
Yeah,
and you don't get it. Even the way she stabs Michael is just kind of like,
Yeah, it's not just, like all of her power that she had is missing.
And like, again, it would have been so much more, like it would have made more thematical sense with where you would have positioned Laurie again with the patient thing and all that if Karen had been gone during that moment, if they hadn't necessarily, like, Karen has this line earlier in the film where she says, my mom put us in his path.
Yeah.
She says that about, and like that kind of vibe being her vibe, and she goes to be with her daughter. And so when she dies at the end of this movie, her and her mom, who have been unresolved forever, remain unresolved permanently. And that's where that should have stayed. And Karen should have been in a good spot with her daughter, but not necessarily with her mom. And that would leave Laurie in this place of like this aching responsibility. Whether or not that's accurate, like that's the feeling that she'd come away with, and that's where we should be sitting at. And it's just so unfortunate that the movie just totally whiffs Karen's whole story.
And again, because like this is planned to be a trilogy, like they wanted the final movie to be Laurie v. Michael. So they have to kill the cast in the second movie. And they have to leave the main character franchise on the sidelines to set her up for the last movie, Endgame style. I don't know if it was worth it.
No, I think like
I don't know if it's worth it either, because I'm pretty sure we're losing Laurie in the next movie.
I think there was a clean path to kill Karen in this movie. I just think that we just didn't get it. There was a way to do it and have it land and work and give Karen her arc and give her presence and make it so that we felt that, and that emotional pain was felt between us and between the characters, and they just totally missed that opportunity. Having said that, different part of the film, I think this film also does an exceptionally good job, not just at showing how these characters are physically trying to recover, but the mourning. It provides actual moments for people to grieve. Even if it's in between lines. And that's also something so rare in these films.
She talks about like her dead husband.
There's that for Karen. Karen gets some good moments, but one of the ones that really stood out to me because it was so sharp, so pointed and small, was when Lonnie, Cameron's dad, is talking about going out on the boat with her dad while she's in the back seat. And it's funny. And then she immediately goes from laughing at the story to being sad.
Yeah.
Because her dad was killed.
Yeah.
And then she has to pull herself out of it because they found where Michael is. And or they found Lindsay's car. And that is so good. That kind of moment is so easily passed over. And I think that vibe is present in this film. And again, it adds to the ferocity of Michael.
I really like Lonnie in this movie a lot.
I did too.
Like, he's not in it a lot, but like he felt like a real dude. And like I like that, like, all of our main characters, like our main characters, like the townspeople, they don't get like super glorious kills sometimes. Like, Michael just kills people, and like, if you're famous or not, you're gonna die in a way. Like, he's just dead up in the attic. Like, we don't see how it happens. It's like, oh, he got him. That sucks. And like,
one of the things I really like about this movie is the nobody has plot armor.
Yes.
You know, Laurie only does because she's not in his path. But if she was, I could believe that she could die, because he kills the survivors of Michael Myers, and that's a really that sends a signal to the audience that, like, if he can kill these legacy characters, nobody is safe. So if he's in his path, you're probably not going to make it.
Yeah. And I was talking to Sparks now. Like, what is the future? What is the next movie going to be then? Is it just going to be Michael and Laurie fighting? Because like, you got to have a whole movie. Like, we speculated they're going to do a lot more
Freddy versus Jason style. Laurie Strode. Shotgun.
I think we will be getting a lot more flashback stuff in the next movie.
I again, like, I like the core thought of Michael being this person who, in his own demented way, is also traumatized and analyzing it and trying to recover from it. And if you wanted to leave that as part of the core of who he is in the next film, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I just hope that the script tackling it is stronger. That's what I suspect. I have a couple of other quick notes. Go ahead.
If I may, one of the things I really like about Laurie's character in this one, I understand why you shelve her for so long, but I do like that we get moments of exposition where she talks about how she tried in her life. She tried to have a family, she tried to get over it, but she could never. And that kind of makes me think that, now that you brought up that we'll probably get flashbacks in the next one, that we could see her try to reconcile with what happened with Michael, maybe even visit him in the psychiatric hospital early days, and try to like get a rise out of him to try to understand.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, like a flashback, like 1985. She goes and visits him once just to see what's up. Yeah.
Just to try to find closure, because like maybe a therapist, like, you need to confront the monster, the boogeyman. I
will say, the trajectory of this movie makes me worried for the next one, because I don't want them to try to do messages in this movie anymore. Like, you can do that in movies, but like, you have to be really good at it.
The politics were the problem. And they got in the way of what was probably a good emotional thematic character story. But because they stuffed those politics in, it made it all messy and it didn't work.
Like, honestly, pick out that middle chunk with like the Everyone Dies Tonight stuff. Like, Michael's just killing folks. Like, it's a good Halloween movie for like a lot of it. And then like, it's all the extra stuff. I'm like, oh, like,
honestly, an incredible Halloween movie.
Yeah, I really, again, like the little
amazing score we didn't talk about, but amazing score.
I've been wanting
John
to
and his son
the whole time. Oh my
Cody
God.
Carpenter, what a guy.
So
the whole intro bit with like all the pumpkins on fire, so good.
The choir.
Oh, I love it.
I think the adding of you add a choir to anything, things get 10 times more spooky. But I love how, like, with Halloween, you have the pumpkin that's already rotted, and then it's reversed, and it's played in reverse to become fresh again. I love that. But I think that's like my favorite opening, just with you see the one pumpkin and then and all the other pumpkins, and they all just start bursting into flame.
Hell yeah.
Or the candle, there's just fire coming out of it. I love it so much. I think just all the music in this movie, and including the main theme with the choir, is just awesome.
Oh yeah, 100% agree.
Like, I feel like this, I mean, yes, it's a Halloween theme. You can't go wrong with the classic Halloween theme, but the fact they added to it with the choir and they made it a little subtle here and there, it's like, just makes it just impacts even more.
The ghost song in the credits that the band did, so good.
Yeah, 100% unexpected. Totally loved it.
Totally
welcome. That's really cool. I'm gonna bring up Halloween 2018 because this is something that I watched the video essay on and I thought it was really, really great. I'm sure you guys know this already. In that movie, John Carpenter and his son did the score, but All the stuff with the younger generation stuff is Cody, and all the older stuff is John. There's a point in the movie where Allison finally meets Michael for the first time, and the boogeyman becomes a real man, and the John Carpenter score turns into the Cody Carpenter score midway through the movie when she finally meets Michael. And I watched that scene and I'm like, holy, this is awesome. And this is not something that can happen in like movies all the time, because fathers and sons don't get to work together like this.
Right.
And this movie is a pure synergy of both of their collaboration talents. And I'm like, God, the score is so good.
Yes,
oh my God,
it's incredible.
It's so good.
Marc, you said you had notes though.
Yeah, I actually did end up covering a lot of them, but I did want to talk about one. I think it is a disservice, especially knowing where the film ends up, because Michael can just survive things. But they wanted to stay in that realm of realism. So in the beginning, when he's in the fire, we find out that he was able to hide behind a little metal door that apparently would appear to be some kind of fireproof or something. And for Laurie to have had her plan and that exist is boneheaded dumb, and I hate it. I'm like, he could have just put him behind anything, and I would have been like, of course he survived. He's Michael Myers. I don't give a shit. Like, why did we have to make Laurie seem stupid?
Laurie's 40-year plan. Oops, had a door that was.
It's like, if it was a metal door, he would have burned it, and he would have been fried like an oven. But that's not the point. But yeah, you see a fire.
The implication of it is like, this is how I'm alive, because I hid.
It was like a garage door.
On,
yeah.
Like if he even just like came out of the side.
You're right.
Of
like
a
eventually
pillar,
it would have cooked him, but like you didn't need it.
Yeah, like the second the firefighter comes down, if he would have just like turned around and saw, sweet, I would have been.
Yeah, he just comes out of the smoke.
Like one of the things I love about a positive about this movie is that it takes place directly after the end of the first one. Because after the end of the first one, I thought, how he can't live. He's dead. He's gonna burn alive. He's trapped. There's no way in hell he's gonna get out.
There's the garage door.
And then
you have so many Michael Myers movies to see.
I know. No shit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, here this movie takes place right after the first one. You see the firefighters go by. You see the firefighters you see him get out. It's like, okay, that makes sense. That is like.
But honestly, if I didn't see it and I just saw him walking down the street with a scarred mask, I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense.
Like him just walking out of the house, like. I know he survived. I don't need to see everything.
But again, like it's based in that idea of like, well, we want to make this not feel like a supernatural Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Until the end of the movie, when they are like,
no, he got shot 10 times and stabbed 6 times. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I don't mind it. I don't mind that he has that moment where he gets shot a bunch of times and stabbed and is okay. It, yeah. I don't mind that. It's just that if the movie is so insistent that it needs to be based in realism because he's not the supernatural Michael Myers, then you got to keep that through line. You can't just be like, oh, except for now.
And I think the next movie is going to explore more of maybe the supernatural stuff about him. I don't know which direction they're going to go, but you do not make the end of this movie with him getting shot a dozen times, stabbed, his neck stomped on, and he survives, and he's a normal human. Yeah. This is the real world. If you're going to make a real world movie, this isn't real anymore.
He got a pitchfork just hit him in his back.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure one of those got him in the spine. He shouldn't be able to move.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time I've watched Michael Myers survive a pitchfork.
Yes, exactly. But those movies maybe were a little more supernatural.
I mean, 4 and 5. I mean, like in the sense that he was unkillable. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, right, but it's the insistence of this movie to say that like this is the real world until it doesn't.
6-year-old boy.
No, wait. Like 4 is the one where he's like starting to possess his niece.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty supernatural.
And I don't like if you want to go the supernatural route, I don't care. It's just it's not even pick an avenue. Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And again, like it all feels like it's muddied in that idea of like, well, we want to have this social political commentary, and we need the mob to do that, and the mob's only a reasonable threat of like what are we if you believe that Michael can be killed by them?
Yeah.
And you didn't need that. You just didn't need it. That kind of. Like that political commentary belongs somewhere. I don't think it belongs in a Halloween movie.
I mean, I'll tell you what they are. They're cannon fodder.
Yeah,
they're just like more kills for Michael.
I think the mob mentality thing is a powerful thing. I just don't think that it was used.
It was handled wrong.
Everything up until like
a mob hunts Michael in a different Halloween movie. It's Halloween 4, and it makes better sense there.
Like having Tommy going around and rallying the troops essentially to like, yo, Michael's out on the loose. We gotta protect ourselves. That's cool, but the second the hospital scene starts and they start the whole Evil Dead scene, I'm like, I'm done.
Shout out for the sheriff bracket. That actor still being around.
Oh, that dude's like 100.
Getting to have the line where he says, "It's Halloween, Michael. Everyone's entitled to one good scare." I'm like, that's pretty good.
Oh, that's so good. before he gets his neck.
And then he dies.
Yeah. So my final thoughts. I think all the action is good. It's just some weird scripting choices, some weird like.
It just doesn't come together as it should.
It just doesn't come together. Yeah, like the sum. Like I like elements more than the whole. Yeah.
The core of the film isn't working, and so many other things are that just surround it.
Like
And it's man,
I love like the
you were
opening
so
stuff. I'll watch the 10-minute compilation of Big John Little John. I'll listen to the score, and I'll watch 2018 Halloween.
I'll
What would
definitely
you-
watch this movie again.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the experience as a whole.
Yeah.
As a whole, I still enjoy, even as I recognize that there's a lot of issues in places.
There's problems with this one, whereas
Yeah.
for me, the 2018 one, there was hardly any problems at all. I loved the 2018.
Yeah, I think if I didn't like that first one so much,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh man, I know the potential.
Yeah.
So what would you rate it, Ryan? Why don't you go first?
Man, I really don't like the ending a lot. But it's not like a failed movie, so I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Ben?
Final thoughts. It is a good Michael Myers on Halloween. It is good, but there like we've been talking about, there are problems with it. Like Karen should have been outside kicking ass and should have been with her daughter. She should have done more. And then when she dies like that, pisses me off. So, but besides that, I think with all the Michael Myers stuff, that outweighs all the other stuff. So I give it an 8.
Nice.
Yeah. Sparks?
Yeah, it's a far cry away from like some of the worst Halloween stuff, even with its major flaws.
Mhm.
I think it's hampered too much by its own ambition, and that's the real issue.
Yeah.
But even then, at least they're trying some bold shit, and some of it is working. Some of the bold choices are working.
Mhm.
So overall, like it's still a pretty incredible Halloween experience, I gotta say. And I give it probably an 8. Also, I think I side with Ben.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I said with Ryan. I'll give it a 7.5 as well. It just doesn't come together as well as I would like. But it's still an enjoyable ride. I do like its ambition. It just
Absolutely. It has a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. I do think that's a little rough.
it's low.
That's way.
I
that's
think
way
it's
too
better
low.
than a third of a good movie,
Yeah.
but it works that way sometimes.
Shall we get into our book club then?
I real quick, I will touch on like I do think that there's just a lot of venom about this movie, and I think a lot of things we said are like really good criticisms, and there are good criticisms out there. And again, like there's just a lot that are like that's a start from Halloween 2.
Oh, that's
like that kind of stuff where you're getting that upset about that stuff and saying like that's the detractor of the movie. Like that's stupid. Come on, man. Like there's a lot that this movie is actually have going for it.
Yeah.
I get like not liking it, but like saying it's just garbage throughout is just stupid. Like, oh my gosh.
They're definitely, I won't name names, but like I follow a couple comic book people on Twitter, and they hate this movie.
Yeah.
They like it's like the worst movie they've seen this year. And I'm like, we see different movies, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Shall we get into our book club then?